The headset was dead silent for 6 seconds before the breathing started. It wasn't the panic gasping I was used to on a graveyard shift. It was wet, rhythmic, and uncomfortably close to microphone, as if the caller had the plastic receiver pressed directly against their moist lips. 911, what is your emergency? I asked, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, ready to type. Static hissed, sounding like dry leaves skittering across pavement, followed by a voice. A woman, whispering so quietly I had to press the headset deeper into my ear to distinguish the syllables from the background noise. He's in the hallway. I immediately tagged the call as a priority 1 break-in on my CAD screen. Ma'am, I need your address. For 22 Birchwood Lane, she whispered. The cadence was wrong. Too flat, too calm for someone hiding from an intruder, yet the tremor in the breath suggested terror beyond capacity. I typed it in. My screen flashed a red error message. Location uninhabited. Disconnected service 2014. Ma'am, are you on a cell phone or a landline? I asked, signaling dispatch to route a squad car anyway, watching the digital map propagate the route. Landline, she said. A sharp click echoed on the line. Not a disconnect, but the distinct mechanical sound of a heavy door latch lifting slowly. He's opening the linen closet, she said. My skin prickled, a wave of cold rush traveling from my neck down my spine. I glanced at the digital map. Officer Miller was 2 minutes out. Stay quiet. Is there a lock on the door you're behind? No, she replied. I'm in the master bedroom, under the bed. There was a pause, and then I heard it. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. Thud, thud. But they didn't sound like footsteps on wood. They sounded like heavy boots crushing gravel. Officer Miller is 1 minute away, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, staring at the timeline on my monitor. He stopped, the woman whispered. He's listening. Through her phone, I heard a low metallic humming sound. It vibrated in my own ear canal, making my teeth ache. It was the sound of a high-voltage transformer, completely out of place for a residential home interior. Dispatched to Miller, I radioed on the 2nd channel, keeping my voice low. Suspect potentially hostile. Caller is hiding in the master bedroom. Copy dispatch. Miller's voice crackled, breathless and distorted by the poor signal in the hills. I'm on the scene. Front door is missing. It's off the hinges. He's moving again, the woman whispered. He's dragging something. I strained to hear. Beneath the static, there was a wet, sliding noise, like a heavy, sodden mop being pushed across a tile floor. Miller is entering the premises now. I told her. I can hear the radio, she said. It's loud. Miller, I said into the radio, panic rising in my throat. Turn your volume down. Suspect can hear you. Dispatch, I'm in the foyer, Miller said. This place it's gutted. There's no floorboards. Just dirt. There's no furniture. It's been abandoned for years. I froze. The ambient temperature in the call center seemed to drop 10 degrees. Ma'am, where are you exactly? I told you, she snapped, her voice suddenly sharp, devoid of the whisper. Under the bed. Miller, clear the master bedroom. Now. Heading up the stairs. The railing is rotted out. I have to be careful. On the phone line, the sliding sound stopped abruptly. He's in the room, the woman said. He's wearing boots. Miller, what do you see? I'm at the bedroom doorway, Miller reported. Dispatch, there's nothing here. No bed, no closet. It's just studs and insulation. The roof is partially caved in. He's looking right at me, the woman whispered. Miller, she says the suspect is in the room. I'm telling you, it's empty, Miller yelled, his voice echoing in the empty structure. I'm sweeping the corners with my flashlight. There's dust everywhere. No footprints but mine. He's shining a light in my face, the woman said. My stomach dropped. I looked at the audio waveform on my screen. It was spiking, reacting to a sound I couldn't hear. Ma'am, the officer doesn't see you. I see him, she replied. Her tone shifted again. It sounded amused. I see his name tag. Miller. Dispatch, did you say something? Miller asked. I'm getting feedback on the line. No, I said, my hand trembling over the mouse. He's lowering the gun, the woman whispered. I didn't lower my weapon. Miller shouted over the radio. Who are you talking to? The caller, Miller. She says she's in a room. There's no phone here. Dispatch. The jacks are ripped out of the wall. The woman on the line drew a breath. It was a long, rattling inhale that seemed to last for 20 seconds, far longer than human lungs could hold without exhaling. Tell Miller to look at the ceiling, she said. Miller, I stammered. Look up. Silence on the radio. Then, a sound I'll never forget. The distinct, wet plap of a heavy drop of liquid hitting a hard surface. Oh, God, Miller choked out. Dispatch! There's a receiver hanging by its cord from the rafters. It's swinging. He sees me, the woman whispered in my ear. Miller, get out of there. The receiver, Miller's voice broke. It's not plugged into anything. The wire is just dangling in the air. It's covered in mold. He's reaching for it, she whispered. I'm leaving, Miller yelled. I'm backing out. He's going to hang up now, the woman said. On the radio, I heard Miller sprinting down the stairs, his breathing ragged, his boots slamming against the rotting wood. But on the phone line, the background noise changed. The static vanished. The metallic humming stopped. The silence was absolute, clearer than any digital connection I'd ever heard. Good night, Elias, the woman said. She used my real name. I hadn't given it to her. My login ID was just a number. The line clicked dead. At the exact same moment, the fluorescent light directly above my workstation flickered violently and died, plunging my desk into a pool of shadow while the rest of the room remained bright. I sat there, paralyzed. The call ended. Timer on my screen was frozen at midnight, even though the call had lasted 3 minutes. You okay, Elias? Sarah, the dispatcher 3 desks down, rolled her chair over. You look like you've seen a ghost. You were talking to yourself for like 5 minutes. I turned to her slowly. Talking to myself? I had a caller. A break-in on Birchwood. Sarah frowned, looking at my screen. Elias, your line has been inactive for 20 minutes. Your status light was set to not ready. I looked back at my screen. The C80 log was empty. The recording of the last call was gone. There was no record of 422 Birchwood Lane. Miller, I said, hitting the radio button. Miller, status report. Static. Then, dispatch, this is Miller. I'm still en route to the domestic on 5th. What's up? The break-in, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Birchwood Lane. I didn't get a call for Birchwood, Miller said, sounding confused. I'm 5 miles away. I took the headset off and placed it on the desk. My hands were shaking so bad I knocked over my coffee cup. The dark liquid spilled across the desk, but it didn't drip off the edge. It pooled in the center, forming a perfect circle, defying the slope of the ergonomic keyboard tray. I need a break, I muttered. Standing up, my legs felt like jelly. I walked to the break room. The hum of the servers in the back room seemed louder than usual, pulsating in a rhythm that matched the footsteps I had heard on the call. Thud, thud. I went to the sink and splashed cold water on my face. When I looked up into the mirror, the reflection was normal, just a tired man with dark circles under his eyes. But then, behind me in the reflection, the door to the break room slowly began to close. I spun around. The door was propped open with a heavy rubber wedge, just as it always was. I turned back to the mirror. In the glass, the door was shut. I blinked, and the reflection corrected itself. The door was open. I grabbed a paper towel, my heart hammering against my ribs. As I dried my face, the PA system crackled. Usually, it was used for announcements from the shift supervisor. Elias to the floor, the supervisor's voice said. I threw the towel away and walked back out. The floor was busy now. Phones were ringing. But as I walked past the rows of desks, I noticed something. No one was talking. 20 dispatchers were sitting at their stations, headsets on, typing furiously. But not a single one of them was speaking. The room was utterly silent except for the clacking of keys. "Sarah?" I said. She didn't look up. She was staring at her screen, her eyes wide, unblinking. Her mouth was moving, forming words, but no sound was coming out. I touched her shoulder. "Sarah?" She jolted, ripping the headset off. "What?" "Jesus, Elias, don't sneak up on me. Why is everyone quiet?" I asked. She looked around the room. "What are you talking about? It's a madhouse in here. Look at Dave. He's shouting at a caller right now." I looked at Dave. He was red-faced, veins bulging in his neck, screaming into his mic, but I couldn't hear him. I couldn't hear anything but the hum. Then, sound crashed back in. A cacophony of voices, ringing phones, and radio chatter hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled back against a filing cabinet. "Go home, Elias," Sarah said, looking concerned. "You look sick." I clocked out early. I didn't care about the reprimand. I needed to get out of there. The walk to the parking lot was dark. The streetlights in the lot were spaced far apart, leaving pools of ink-black darkness between the cars. My car, a beat-up sedan, was parked in the back row. As I approached, I saw the interior light was on. I stopped, keys in hand. I always lock my car. I stepped closer. The light flickered and went out. I waited 10 seconds. Nothing moved. I unlocked the door remotely and got in, locking it immediately behind me. I checked the back seat. Empty. I started the engine. The radio blasted on at full volume. It was just static. I frantically turned the knob, but the volume wouldn't go down. I punched the power button. The radio stayed on. Then the static cleared. "He's driving." A woman's voice whispered through the speakers. I slammed the brakes, screeching to a halt before I'd even left the spot. I ripped the faceplate off the stereo. The voice stopped. I sat there, breathing hard. My breath fogged up the windshield, but the fog didn't spread naturally. It formed distinct, sharp lines. Letters. H-E-L-P. No, not help. I looked closer. The letters were backwards, written from the outside. H-E-L-L. I hit the wipers. The rubber squeaked against the glass, smearing the condensation. The word vanished. I drove home in silence, refusing to look at the rearview mirror. Every time I passed a street lamp, the shadows inside the car seemed to stretch and lunge, trying to grab the passenger seat. I lived in a third-floor apartment in a brick building from the 20s. The hallway smelled of boiled cabbage and old carpet. I unlocked my door and bolted behind me, throwing the chain latch. I turned on every light in the apartment. The kitchen, the living room, the bathroom, even the closet light. I couldn't handle the dark. I sat on my couch and turned on the TV, needing noise. The news was on. A report about a traffic accident. I closed my eyes, trying to rationalize what had happened. Sleep deprivation, stress, a prank hack on the radio. My cell phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. Unknown number. I let it ring. It stopped. Immediately, the landline in the kitchen rang. I didn't even know I had a landline plugged in. I used it for the internet modem. I walked into the kitchen. The dusty beige phone on the wall was screaming. I picked it up slowly. "Hello?" "He's in the hallway," the woman whispered. I slammed the phone down. I ripped the cord out of the wall jack. I backed away into the living room. This isn't real. This isn't real. 3 slow, heavy knocks on my front door. I froze. I stared at the door, though it bowed slightly with each impact, as if something incredibly heavy was leaning against it. I crept to the peephole. I pressed my eye against the glass. The hallway was empty. The light in the hallway was flickering. Then I saw it, on the floor just outside my door. A wet trail, like a mop, had been dragged across the carpet. I backed away. The lock on my door clicked. I watched, horrified, as the deadbolt knob slowly began to turn. I had the key in my pocket. No one else had a key. The bolt slid back with a clack. The chain was the only thing holding it. The doorknob turned. The door pushed open 2 inches, stopped by the chain. "Elias," a voice whispered from the crack. It wasn't the woman this time. It was a man's voice. Deep, guttural, wet, go away. I screamed, grabbing a kitchen knife from the counter. Let us in, the voice gurgled. Through the crack, I saw a hand grip the edge of the door. The fingers were long, pale, and covered in gray silt. The fingernails were missing. I slammed my shoulder against the door, trying to force it shut. The resistance was immense. It felt like pushing against a concrete wall. You answered, the voice said, right against the wood, inches from my face. You opened the line. The chain began to strain. The metal links groaned. I pushed harder, my boots slipping on the floor. Leave me alone. Suddenly, the pressure vanished. The door slammed shut. I threw the deadbolt back. I grabbed a chair and jammed it under the knob. I stood there, panting, the knife trembling in my hand. Silence. Then my TV turned off. The lights in the apartment dimmed to a brownout level. The filaments in the bulbs glowed a dull, angry orange. My cell phone buzzed again. I looked at the screen. It was a text message. From me. Look under bed. I threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and cracked, but the screen stayed on, glowing in the semi-darkness. I needed to leave. I needed to get to a public place. I grabbed my keys and ran to the door. I yanked the chair away and threw the bolt. I opened the door. I wasn't looking at my hallway. I was looking at a room with raw wooden studs, pink insulation, and a partially caved-in roof. Dirt floor. I slammed the door shut. I locked it. I backed up, hyperventilating. I ran to the window. I pulled the blinds up. Outside, it wasn't the street. It was a dense, gray fog. I couldn't see the ground. I couldn't see the building across the alley. Just swirling, cold mist pressing against the glass. The temperature in the apartment plummeted. I could see my breath. The landline phone in the kitchen, the one I had unplugged, started to ring. I covered my ears. The TV turned back on. It was static. Then a picture formed. It was a security camera feed, black and white, grainy. It showed a man sitting on a couch, holding a knife with his hands over his ears. It was me. The angle was from the ceiling corner of my living room. I didn't have a camera there. On the screen, behind the digital version of me, a shadow detached itself from the hallway wall. It was tall, impossibly tall. Its limbs were too long, dragging on the floor. I spun around. The hallway behind me was empty. I looked back at the TV. The shadow was closer to the man on the couch. It was reaching out. I scrambled over the back of the couch, putting it between me and the hallway. The phone stopped ringing. Elias. The woman's voice came from the TV speakers now. Don't turn around. I froze. I could feel cold air on the back of my neck. Not a draft. Breath. Why are you doing this? I whispered, tears streaming down my face. We are just a connection, she said. You are the receiver. The breath on my neck got closer. It smelled like wet earth and copper. Who are you? I asked for 22 Birchwood, she said. We are all there, waiting. The TV screen flickered. The image changed. It showed the dispatch center. My desk, but it wasn't empty. There was something sitting in my chair. A dark, shapeless mass wearing my headset. You never hung up, Elias. The voice whispered right in my ear. I swung the knife behind me blindly. It passed through empty air. I stumbled toward the kitchen, my eyes darting around the room. The shadows on the table, behind the curtains, they were all pulsing, stretching. I looked at the unplugged phone. The cord was severed, the copper wires frayed. It rang again. I picked it up. I had to make it stop. What do you want? I screamed into the receiver. Connect us. The deep, guttural voice answered. To who? To everyone. A spark popped from the earpiece, stinging my ear. I dropped the phone. The walls of my apartment began to bleed. Not blood. A thick black, viscous liquid oozed from the electrical sockets. It dripped from the light fixtures. It smelled of ozone and burning plastic. The liquid hit the floor and began to pool, moving toward me. I climbed onto the kitchen island. Elias, Sarah's voice. I looked up. The voice was coming from the vent above the stove. Sarah, Elias, wake up. You're slumped over your desk. I'm at home. I yelled. I'm in my kitchen. No, Sarah's voice said, sounding tinny and distant. Your heart rate is 180. You're seizing. Elias. The reality wavered. For a second, I saw the dispatch center. I saw the ceiling tiles. I saw faces looking down at me. Then it snapped back. I was on the kitchen island. The black liquid was touching the base of the cabinets. Don't listen to her, the woman whispered from the living room. She's not real. We are real. The black liquid began to rise. It wasn't liquid. It was thousands of tiny black wires, writhed like worms, tangling and knotting together. They reached for my boots. I kicked at them. They wrapped around my ankle. They were ice cold. I felt a sharp sting, a needle sensation. They were burrowing into my skin. Let me go. I shrieked, slashing at the wires with a knife. The knife sparked against them. They were metal. The wires surged up my leg. I could feel them moving under my jeans, tightening, searching. I looked at the window. The fog was clearing. I saw Birchwood Lane. I saw the gutted house. I was looking out from the master bedroom window. No, I sobbed. I'm in my apartment. You are where the call is, the woman said. I looked down at my hands. They were becoming translucent. I could see the veins, but they were black. I could see the wires moving inside my arms, replacing my nerves. The phone on the floor floated up. It hovered in front of my face. Take the call, Elias. My hand moved on its own. I couldn't stop it. I reached out and grabbed the receiver. I put it to my ear. 911, what is your emergency? I heard my own voice say, but my lips hadn't moved. The voice came from the other end of the line. He's in the kitchen, my voice whispered. He's on the island. I looked at the reflection in the microwave door. There was no one on the island, just a tangle of black wires in the shape of a man. No, I whispered. Dispatch to Miller. I heard on the line. It was my voice again. Suspect is in the kitchen. The front door of my apartment or the house on Birchwood. I couldn't tell anymore. Burst open. Officer Miller stood there, but his face was blank. Smooth skin where eyes and a mouth should be. He raised his gun. He sees me. I whispered into the phone. I see him, my voice on the line replied. Good night, Elias. Miller fired. The muzzle flash wasn't fire. It was darkness. It hit me in the chest. I didn't feel pain. I felt connection. I felt the electricity of the entire city grid flood into me. I saw every 911 call happening at that exact second. I saw a car crash on I-95. I saw a heart attack in a bathroom on 4th Street. I saw a domestic dispute in a trailer park. I was the switchboard. I opened my mouth to scream, but only static came out. I fell backward off the island into the pool of wires. They engulfed me. They went into my ears, my nose, my mouth. The world went black. Elias? Elias. I gasped, sucking in a lungful of air that smelled of stale coffee and carpet cleaner. I was on the floor of the dispatch center. Sarah was kneeling over me. The supervisor was holding a defibrillator. He's back, the supervisor said. Stand down. I sat up coughing. My chest burned. What happened? I croaked. You got shocked, Sarah said, her face pale. A power surge. It blew your headset and the terminal. You've been out for 2 minutes. I looked at my desk. The monitor was smoking. The plastic casing of my phone jack was melted. I looked at my hand. There were thin, red lines tracing up my arm, fading as I watched, like Lichtenberg figures from a lightning strike. The call, I said, Birchwood. Elias, stop, Sarah said gently. There was no call. You plugged in and the surge hit you immediately. I nodded slowly. Right, the surge. They sent me to the hospital for observation. Everything checked out. Just a minor electrical burn on my ear and some arrhythmia. I went home the next morning. I took a cab. I didn't want to drive. I walked into my apartment. It was normal. No black liquid. No wires. The phone was plugged in. I went to the bedroom and collapsed onto the bed, exhausted. I closed my eyes. The silence of the room was heavy. Then I heard it, very faint, coming from inside the wall, behind my head. The sound of a line opening. I lay still, my eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. 911. What is your emergency? Whisper a voice from inside the drywall. It was my voice. I held my breath. He's in the bedroom. My voice whispered. He's on the bed. I slowly turned my head toward the wall. He thinks he woke up, the voice said. I sat up, but he's still on the line. My cell phone on the nightstand lit up. No ring, just the screen brightening. It showed an active call. Duration, forever. The caller ID said, 422 Birchwood Lane. I reached out to decline the call. My finger touched the glass. The glass felt like warm, wet flesh. Don't hang up. The voice whispered from the walls, from the floor, from the ceiling. We're just getting started. The room plunged into darkness. And then the breathing started.